Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Girl Talk on mental health and wellness today. My name is Isa. I am the manager of programs and impact at Girl Up, and I'm so excited to host this event today and to have you all join this conversation. And when I say join the conversation, I mean it. Make sure to check out the chat in the menu bar below. And throughout the event, don't forget that during our panel, you'll be able to ask some questions of our panelists. We'll have some time for Q&A, and we'll be able to grab your questions and share with them. So make sure that you're using all of the fun functions and checking out all of the resources on the platform. But we're so excited to have you here with us today to chat about mental health and wellness. So during today's event, we're really hoping to reduce the stigma around mental health. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk about it. And so in today's conversations, you're going to get a little bit of everything. Our speakers are going to share some of their personal experiences, some of their self-care strategies, some of their strategies they use to check in on their families and friends to make sure that they're also feeling supported, as well as talk about some tools and resources to make sure that you are getting helpful and accurate information to support you and what you need to stay healthy. Your mental health is important, you are important, and we're so grateful that you've joined us for this important conversation today. So again, make sure to check out the chat and the Q&A function, submit your questions for our panelists, and engage with us. But I'm really excited to kick off this event by introducing our opening speaker, Cynthia Germanotta. She is the president of Born This Way Foundation, which she co-founded with her daughter, Lady Gaga, in 2012. Under Cynthia's leadership, the foundation has connected with tens of thousands of young people across the country, across the US, and across the world, launched innovative youth-focused programming, and conducted cutting-edge research to improve the understanding of mental wellness. In May 2019, the United Nations World Health Organization appointed Cynthia as a Global Goodwill Ambassador for mental health. And so I'm so excited to welcome Cynthia. Please take it away.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for that incredibly kind introduction. My name is Cynthia Germanotta, and I'm the president and co-founder of Born This Way Foundation. It's truly an honor to be with the Girl Up community today for this important Girl Talk. I was very happy and excited to hear that Girl Up is focusing on mental health and wellness. As we say in my work as WHO Ambassador for Mental Health, there is no health without mental health. I know firsthand the ability that each of you has to make a difference in the world. I'm a mom, and I feel so lucky to have two incredibly kind and resilient daughters who taught me so much about the power of kindness and how sharing your story is an act of bravery, but also a step toward taking care of your mental health. It takes courage and vulnerability to speak openly about your experiences, and it's an act of kindness that can help others feel more hopeful and less alone. It was through the experiences of my daughter, Stephanie, who many of you know as Lady Gaga, that the movement behind Born This Way Foundation began. My daughter's mental health story is the reason for our foundation. She has struggled with mental health challenges throughout her life, starting in middle school when she developed depression at a young age. Now, through our work, she's passionate about making young people seen, heard, and better equipped than she was to deal with life struggles. Every day, we're honored to work alongside incredible young people like you to make kindness cool, validate the emotions of young people everywhere, and eliminate the stigma around mental health. We're so inspired by how aspirational and hopeful your generation continues to be in the face of struggle. We know from our research that young people prioritize their mental health, but we also know that many of you might still feel uncomfortable discussing it, or you don't know where to turn for help. Our goal at Born This Way Foundation is to focus on preventive actions and further empower you by equipping you with the tools you need to thrive. I want to speak to you candidly today This past year has been and continues to be difficult for all of us, myself included. It's been especially hard for young people. This has been one of life's unexpected challenges that we only hope can make us stronger. I'm sorry to those of you who may have missed out on opportunities and milestones like graduations. I'm sorry to those of you who may have lost a loved one. And we hear you if you're having mental health struggles. Every single feeling you're having right now is valid, and everything your life has changed. It may feel that this is the way life's going to be, but it's important to remember that this situation is temporary and things will eventually get back to normal. My daughter often says it's okay to not be okay. So if you're struggling, we understand. As hard as it may seem, there are resources and people available to help you through this difficult time. That said, I'm incredibly inspired by your resilience. Every day at Born This Way Foundation, we hear inspiring stories from young people who are finding their purpose and making a difference in their lives and those around them. Girl Up has a wonderful goal for today: to inspire and equip girls with the knowledge, abilities, and network to spark social change for a more open dialogue about mental health and well-being for girls, to decrease stigma, and to foster girl-led solutions for prioritizing your personal well-being. These goals are directly in line with our mission at Born This Way Foundation, and I'd like to share 3 helpful ways we can help you achieve them. The first is to model kindness in healthy conversations. As I mentioned earlier, it might feel awkward talking about your mental health, but the more we model healthy, open conversations like this one today about what we're experiencing, the more we can help eliminate the stigma. We think of it in the same way as talking about physical health. If you have a cold, you're probably going to tell someone. The same should go for a mental health challenge, where you should feel empowered to talk with someone you trust about it so you can get the support you need. Secondly, take time to learn how to help yourself and your peers. We also know from our research that when in a mental health crisis, young people of your age group are more likely to turn to each other. We partnered with our friends at jack.org to provide a tool called bethere.org to help us all lean into these difficult conversations. At bethere.org, you can learn how to recognize when someone might be struggling with their mental health and learn the skills needed to safely support them. I encourage you to check it out and see how in just 5 minutes you can learn something new about how to better support a friend or a loved one. And third, I'd like to invite you to share your own story and connect with other young change makers just like you who are writing their stories on Channel Kindness, our digital storytelling platform. I encourage you to share your own. At channelkindness.org, you'll hear from young people like Natalie Salvatierra, who after noticing how her community's mental health was being impacted by the pandemic, founded an organization in which she writes encouraging letters to teens who are having mental health struggles. With stories of kindness, bravery, and resilience from across the globe, as well as inspiration on how you can turn compassionate action in your own lives through storytelling opportunities, Channel Kindness is the kindest corner on the internet, and we hope you'll visit and share soon. Most importantly, please know that you matter. You are loved, and we need you to stay here. If you're having trouble believing that, I encourage you to visit pleasestay.us, a campaign with our partners at Find Your Anchor. On the site, you'll find the hashtag #PleaseStayPledge asking you to promise to stay here, along with self-care tips, life-saving resources, and suggestions for anchors to search for in your own lives. My anchors are my family, walks in Central Park, ballet, and writing in my gratitude journal. Anchors don't have to be groundbreaking, and they can change all the time. Whatever it takes to keep you here and us here, minute to minute, day to day. I took the pledge, and I hope you will too. Please visit pleasestay.us to take the pledge and share it with others. Thank you so much again for having me today. You've already taken the first step in taking care of your mental health and wellness by just being here today. And I encourage you to stay connected with us at BornThisWay Foundation And please let us know how we can continue to empower you in the Girl Up community. I wish you all the best on life's journey, and I'm proud of you. Be kind and stay brave.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. We are so grateful to have you here today, and we are amazed by the work that you and the Born This Way Foundation are doing. And so I appreciate your candidness and your openness to discuss mental health. I've become a lot more open about it recently, and I hope that our girls do the same, and all of our participants do the same. So please make sure to check out the Born This Way Foundation website, sign the pledge, as well as check out a lot of the other things that Girl Up and our friends are doing this month for Mental Health Awareness Month. We have our Global Fitness Challenge going on. Our second week is focused on mental health, as well as our Sports for a Purpose bootcamp at the end of the month. It's also focused on mental health and well-being. Check out all of the resources on our platform, and make sure to take that action and get involved. Next up, I'm really excited to invite two of our teen advisors, Angela and Mwansa, for a fireside chat. Mwansa is one of our 2020-2021 Girl Up Teen Advisors from Lusaka, Zambia. She's an education equity advocate in her community and specifically focuses on ending period poverty. She has organized several fundraisers with her Girl Up Club to purchase hygiene kits for girls. She's also a proponent of increasing resources for women's mental health and believes that creating pathways to education for girls is a necessary step to accomplish that. Mwansa plans to study psychology at university and ultimately work for a mental health NGO. I'm also excited to introduce Angela. She's another teen advisor and co-chair of the 2020-2021 Teen Advisory Board. She founded her high school's Girl Up chapter based in Los Angeles, California in the US. Angela is also the founder of Artvocacy, a youth-led platform that uses art to engage audiences on social justice issues around the world. She also promotes art as a medium for mental health awareness and wellness. Angela plans to pursue a university degree in international relations next fall and continue her activism in mental health and social justice. Thank you so much for joining us, Mwansa and Angela. Take it away.
Hi, here with my TA sister, Angela. I don't know if she can hear us. I hope you're doing well.
I hope you're doing well as well. It's so great to be here with you.
So great to talk. I know we've already talked about this a few times to prep for this fireside chat in the first place, but it's very exciting to do this in front of the people who are attending.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening in, thank you so much. Go ahead.
So let's get into the questions, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So the first question I have here is, why do you think it's important that we talk about mental health?
Oh, such an important question to really kick off our conversation. So it is so incredibly important to talk about mental health because mental health is not talked about in so many parts of the world. The general concept of mental health in many places is seen as quote-unquote taboo and stigmatized. And I firsthand have witnessed as an Asian American living in the States, a plethora of situations in which my friends felt as if they were limited in speaking about their mental health. And of course, there are a lot of historical reasons and factors in play as generation trauma, but our generation truly is changing, and the way that both the mentality and the way that we approach mental health emotional needs, mental needs, and intersectionality between all of such issues in the modern day is incredibly different. And as a certain phrase within the mental health community goes, the future is stigma free. And it is up to us as young folks and folks of all different kinds of identities to create that space by talking about mental health. Many people are encouraged to seek out help and to validate their own selves and what they face. And that is, and in many communities, that is unfortunately not the case. And that because of that, it is beyond important to beyond talking, educate about mental health, give resources and spread awareness about the issues that go beyond mental health and into mental illness, into the specific types of issues that pervade in, for example, gender equity. And there's so many reasons, but that is undoubtedly one of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying about how generational trauma and people in so many different communities have seen mental health as a taboo and like there's a big stigma around it. It's definitely a great thing that our generation is taking it so seriously and bringing it so forward into like conversation and just talking about it as a whole. It's definitely very refreshing to see. I know, like, from my parents' experience, some of like my older cousins and stuff, they're always talking about how you guys are so free with like what you talk about and what you say and how you converse things. And I'm just like, yeah, we definitely are. We've seen like from just like seeing from your past generation, we're just like, wow, you really never talked about anything. I want to change that. Like, I don't want to go through the same struggles our previous generation did. Like, history should not repeat itself. So it's a great thing to see, honestly. I'm very involved with mental health. It's honestly, like, I could go on and on. I could write a book. But I do enjoy talking about it, and especially understanding why certain things happen and why certain people feel certain things, and just like how the brain works. This is like very interesting, like diverse thing, and it's very prominent in like what we talk about. I know we all like make jokes about like, oh, mental health and depression and blah blah blah, but like some people can see it as a bad thing, and sometimes it does get bad, but like we're talking about it in the first place. Like, we're going to joke about it, we're going to converse about it, so it's very refreshing and nice to see. Yeah. So you go next with the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of I think, you know, there are so many different aspects to a conversation, and obviously the overall mentality towards mental health is changing, and that is perhaps the most. There's obviously a lot of improvements in how we talk about mental health, but that's undoubtedly the fuel to our fire. And I love that, how you tied in your own personal experience and connecting to a bit more of a personal question. Obviously, this year has been challenging for all of us and for so many reasons. But for you specifically, Mwansa, how has this year and all of the beautiful chaos that has embodied these past 12 months really impacted your mental health?
Whew. I mean, last year was definitely beautiful chaos. That's honestly a great way to put it, beautiful chaos. It was hard for everyone. Everyone was kind of like stuck at home and not outside and stuck with themselves. I feel like last year just really taught me that being by yourself is dangerous to an extent. Like, I am a very introverted person. I kind of like keeping to myself. I like being quiet, but I can also be very loud. But I do enjoy being by myself, especially because I'm like a person who kind of feeds off the energy of other people, of like people around me. Like, I'll definitely be like energetic and very spoken and blah blah blah. But like, if I'm alone, I will like be alone. Like, I'll be happy, or like I'll be quiet by myself. But last year definitely took it to like, I'm quiet by myself a lot, and that's not fun. It just made me think a lot because I wasn't talking to anyone. I was just on my phone or like in my bedroom or not going to school like consistently and stuff. So that definitely made me like be with my thoughts a lot, which I personally found very dangerous, and like it was very prevalent. And I feel like last year made me realize a lot about my mental health. Like it's like I didn't have much to do. Like I was like doing schoolwork, but to an extent, like I wasn't like in and out of the house like all the time. I was like home a lot. So I kind of had to find something to do with my time. And a lot of my time was like spent reading into like mental health, especially because like I'm very interested in psychology. So like just like reading about psychology also like ties into mental health. And like I was just reading a bunch of articles and all this and that. And like, oh, I'm going through like mental health things. Like I'm going through like mental illnesses. It's not like I'm just like tired or I'm just like loud or today I just feel sad. Like it could be like a literal, like an actual issue for me. So that made me like discover and see things and read things and figure out like how my mental health is and like where it stands. Like I already knew a bit about mental health, like coming from like last year, like before last year, sorry. I already knew a little bit about mental health, but like reading into it and actually figuring out like definitely helped me out more and like discover myself more and like aided my mental health journey. So teaching, educating myself type of thing, and besides it was horrible, but at the same time it like made me learn about myself. So it's like I don't have like a set answer. Like I can't say it was good or bad. It was what it was really. But yeah, it was definitely, last year was definitely something, and it like made me go through like a lot of things like mentally and like just being by myself, and it definitely taught me a lot of things about myself, which I did appreciate, but it also like gave me a lot of perspective and like did a few things to like myself other than educating myself. So it was a double-edged sword, but it was a very impactful double-edged sword. But like, what about you? Like, how was last year? Like, I know you're a senior. You're a graduate. I'm sorry, we have different school systems, so sometimes I get confused. But I know you're like in your senior year this year. Like, how has that been for you? Like from last year extending to this year.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so proud of you for really being able to self-advocate for your mental health. That's truly the beautiful part in this chaos known as last year. Sorry about that. And in terms of being a senior, yes, I'm heading off to college in a few months, which is both incredibly exciting, but also a bit terrifying in all candid, nature. But in terms of this past year, especially as a senior and having gone through so many, an amalgamation of everything at once, the college admissions process, which we all know is can be a nightmare. Being in a pandemic and really having the after effects of staying at home for such a long time, and I think, to be really honest, I think a lot of what impacted my mental health was actually having certain disconnects, and in all honesty, I think there were a lot of disconnects for me with especially the things I was passionate and still am incredibly passionate about, including activism within the gender equity space. And I think what I learned from this entire experience was really to choose to challenge, which is actually the theme for this year's Women's Month. Having gone through a lot of the ups and downs of this year, I was cognizant of what I needed to do for myself, and which dabs into self-care and so much beyond, and to fellow advocates that are facing the same or similar thing. Activism is draining. As incredible as you are in this space, there is a lot of there is the notion that you are fighting for something beyond yourself. But something I've learned is to also fight for yourself as well. And it is so okay to take breaks during this entire time if you need. And regardless, you are still advocating for the cause that matters within your community, be it gender equity or mental health within that realm. And just to sort of end off, I do have a book recommendation. It's called Sustaining Spirit, Self-Care for Social Justice by Naomi Ortiz. And it continues the conversation of balancing self-care with social justice, which is so incredibly important for each and every one of you, and a truly discussion that continues to be held. And just that's definitely something I've learned for myself at the end of this year. And well, it's been so lovely speaking with you. I know we didn't get to speak on a few other topics we wanted to cover, but regardless, it was so lovely hearing your story, as storytelling truly changes the world. And in the interest of time, we will be passing our torch from our fireside chat back to Isa, who will be continuing this potent conversation surrounding mental health with some incredible mental health advocates. So thank you so much for tuning in, and Isa, take it away.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank
And thank you so much, Mwansa. I know, first, thank you for the book recommendation. I think we all love a good book recommendation. And second, I know that we can always count on our teen advisors to lead by example and really have those open and candid conversations about many important topics, but today specifically mental health. And I loved the highlight on self-advocacy and making sure that you're doing the work as well that you need to do to take care of yourself. All right, well, we have so many more amazing speakers to hear from, and so I want to make sure to keep things moving. So I'm excited to introduce another one of our teen advisors, Angelina, who is going to be moderating the panel. She is one of our teen advisors from Franklin, Massachusetts in the US. She is an advocate for climate justice within her community, has participated in climate strikes and demonstration. She is motivated to create inclusive civic spaces and recently helped write a mental health proposal for her state, which she mentioned is now a bill. She is also running cross country and track at her high school. She plans to study political science and psychology in college next fall and will continue her social justice work. So I will pass it off to the incredible Angelina to introduce our panelists and get another candid conversation going. So welcome, Angelina.
Hi, thank you, Isa, and thank you so much to our panelists for being here. We're going to have a great conversation about mental health and wellness. Please make sure to submit questions in the Q&A box, as we are going to be having a Q&A. So this first question is going to be for Maliha. Tell us about the story of mental health and what drove you to start the organization.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Angelina, for that question. My name is Maliha, and I'm the founder of the Story of Mental Health. So there were a few reasons why I wanted to start an organization. This organization has been in my head for over 4 years now. And finally, I was just, in the beginning, why it took me 4 years was because I was always thinking, am I even qualified to, start an organization that is all about mental health? Because I'm not a psychiatrist. I am not like a professional in the field of psychology. But that's not that's just one part of mental health. And once I understood that, I was able to make peace with my decision of starting it, and it's the best decision that I could ever make. What motivated me to start the story of mental health was ultimately I come from a culture and a country. I'm originally from Pakistan, and there it's not very easy. Like in so many societies and so many countries, it's not very easy to talk about mental health. And one of the reasons is because people see other issues as being bigger issues. Like, in Pakistan, so many people are dealing with poverty, so many people are dealing with financial instability, which is the same thing. So and also they're dealing with just so many gender inequality. But again, these are issues that we can solve if we just pay attention to for solving our mental health, if that makes sense. But yeah, ultimately I wanted to make sure that we're able to create a space where the marginalized voices are able to talk about mental health, and they're able to prioritize their mental health without thinking that, oh, we have bigger issues to deal with, because this is also a big issue that you need to deal with. And whether you're doing that for your own community, whether you're doing that for yourself. So that was part of the reason. Another reason was that, we have our social media, and we have all of these amazing resources online. But one thing that sometimes keeps me up at night is that we're having these incredible conversations around mental health, around gender equality, around, so many other social justice issues as well. But is it reaching the most vulnerable? So that's where also Story of Mental Health comes in as well, that it's designed to not just have a safe space online for mental health and resources online for mental health, but also going in field and talking to people who won't even who won't have access to, let's say, these internet conversations, these online conversations, or these platforms that are online. So that's something that that also motivated me to start Story of Mental Health. But ultimately, if I were to put it in one line, it's a intersectional space for marginalized voices.
Thank you, Maliha. I agree. It's so important for mental health to be intersectional, definitely, and I'm really glad you were able to do that. Our next question goes to Samantha. Tell us about KlickEngage and the work you're doing with students.
Yeah, so my name is Samantha Pratt, and I'm CEO and founder of KlickEngage. And what KlickEngage is actually a technology and professional service company that leverages social emotional learning to improve the overall emotional well-being of children. And so what that looks like for us right now is we offer trainings to schools and teachers, but we also have an app that's used in classrooms that allows students to self-report their emotional well-being through a quick survey. We call it a check-in. Based on their results, they're grouped into different color groupings where they get language to describe how they're feeling and coping mechanisms to help them own those feelings. And then on the other side of that, the teacher in the school actually gets this data in real time so that they can more effectively connect kids to intervention services and just really make real-time pivots in their instructional practices and supports. And so that's this really comprehensive approach that we have taken to trying to just make sure students' voices are heard more effectively in the classroom. Because I'm sure that many girls in this conversation might know sometimes it's just somebody asking you how you're doing that can directly improve your mood, right? And the problem is in schools where students spend a vast majority of their awake time, they're not given many opportunities to be heard and to express those feelings. And then educators, as a former educator myself, I know educators, we don't have the time or capacity to take into account those individual feelings and personal contacts. And it really affects students' learning long term, but it also affects youth and adolescents' ability to be able to mitigate the traumas they experience in ways that doesn't affect their long term. And that's really a big part of our mission and our why. And it's deeply rooted in my own experiences, not as an educator, but my own struggles with mental health in my youth and early or late adolescence, really. And because I was exposed to lots of complex traumas growing up. I grew up in a single parent household in poverty. I experienced a lot of racial trauma, a lot of different in domestic violence, lots of different things that I was constantly exposed to. Luckily, I was what they call high functioning. So like my coping strategy was actually throwing myself into school. The end result of years of sustained exposure to trauma and me coping by overly basically burdening myself with lots of busyness was an anxiety disorder. And so I developed a pretty extreme anxiety disorder when I was in high school. I didn't get any treatment for it because, again, I was high functioning. So I didn't pose as somebody with behavioral problems or academic issues. So I was labeled a perfectionist. And so I got zero mental health support, despite like cyclical breakdowns through my adolescent years. And then it wasn't until college when it became a physical health condition that I actually got services. And the fact that colleges actually have really easily available services, and that's something we can talk more about today too, that I finally got that support. But I was almost 20 and I had developed a full panic disorder before I got any help. And according to like my pediatrician and my mom, I'd been demonstrating an anxiety disorder since I was about 7. So it's really a space that I feel really passionately that the education space, the classroom space, is a space where we can actually catch these things for kids more easily. And if somebody had identified these issues for me sooner, I wouldn't have had to do as much therapy as I had to do I had to get put on medication. There was a lot of things that might have been avoidable had it been caught a lot sooner. And so that's really what we try to do here at KlickEngage.
Thank you, Samantha. Definitely addressing like students' trauma is so important, and that's really great that you're able to do that. This next question is for Alice. Tell us about Headspace and its mission to share meditation and mindfulness techniques.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name's Alice, and I work at Headspace, and I run social impact at Headspace. And actually, before I introduce Headspace, I just want to say how inspired I am to be with this incredible group of women. And Angelina, I couldn't agree more, like the importance of education and sort of catching these things early. So Headspace is actually a mindfulness and meditation app launched in 2010. The two co-founders, one was an ex-Buddhist monk, the other was a stressed out ad exec, and together they made Headspace. And in my role in social impact, our mission is to get these tools and this content into the hands of young people like you for free. And we do that through 2 ways. We do that through schools. As Angelina was saying, it's so important, you know, the role that educators play. And as we know from everything that's happened in this past year, like the school can be such a support structure for so many people in our community, especially underserved communities. So all educators get Headspace for free. If you're in a school in the UK, US, Canada, or Australia, please tell your school, you know, if you're passionate about it, tell your teacher to sign up. And then increasingly, we're sort of obviously trying to reach you all kind of directly through social media, really meeting you where you are. So last year, we partnered with Snapchat and we created a mini version of Headspace on Snapchat for you to try meditation, share it with a friend, support each other in your mental health. We just launched a wellness hub on TikTok as well. So yeah, really, it's just all about getting these content and tools into your hands in a way that's super accessible to try and sort of increase the conversation and break down the stigma around mental health.
Thank you, Alice. A lot of my teachers have been allowing us to do mindful meditation, which is great. And I love to do it more, and more students should be able to do that. This next question goes to anyone in the panel can answer it. people talk about the stigma surrounding mental health, but it seems very generalized. How have you seen or experienced attitudes towards mental health differing depending on someone's identities?
Hi, so I would love to answer this question because this is something that I can kind of relate to. When I was looking for help or resources for to better my mental health, and some people were like, okay, maybe you should try therapy and talking to a therapist about what you're feeling or what you're going through. Therapy is great, but I grew up in two cultures. So I moved to the United States when I was 14. So till 14, I was in Pakistan, and then after 14, I was in the United States. So like, I have understanding of two different cultures, but when I was seeking help, I was in the UK. So right now I'm in the UK. So while I was thinking about, okay, I'll talk to a therapist, but constantly I was like, they're not going to understand what I'm talking about. They're not going to understand if I'm talking about a conflict with a family member or a relative, they won't understand where I'm coming from because the cultures are so different. And that's something that I have struggled with, and which is why when we say representation matters or end the stigma around mental health, you're absolutely right. That is so generalized. Like, we need to go in depth and talk and actually give the mic to people who are asking for more representation, and kind of like listen, and definitely listen to them and take their point seriously. That what are they asking for? Are they asking for more a more diverse I want to say more diverse resources or more people involved in this mental health space that are from diverse backgrounds? So I think it's on both sides. So it's not just creating it's not just creating awareness for, let's say, people of color, because notoriously communities of color they don't tend to talk about mental health as much. So it's not just about involving communities of color into the conversation of mental health, but also involving professionals who are from those communities of color, so that we can find better connections, and so that people who are seeking help can feel like, okay, this person will understand because they are exposed to the same problems, or they were exposed to. And also, like, in terms of training as well, whether we're talking about psychologists or psychiatrists, or we're talking about people just working in this mental health space, who are organizers, who are activists, to make sure that they're talking about their experiences, and so that people can relate to them and people can, fully understand how they can seek help. I don't know if I articulated that well, but yeah, I just got really excited about that question because that's something that I think about. I'm like, I don't know how many other people feel this way as well. So.
Shall I go? I didn't know, Samantha, if you wanted to answer. I think this is a really, important question. I think was it Mwansa was saying, and I recognize the same thing. I think there has been a generational shift, in terms of breaking down stigma. I think we've come a long way. I think my dad, even the other day, he was like, everyone's talking about mental health these days, and that's a great thing. And but there's still some way to go. And I would say, especially around this area, around sort of, we recognize that conversations are happening. And I really believe and am inspired by this generation that you can really be kind of brave and at the forefront of having these conversations. Because we also see in our research that there are still some fears really around, being worried about saying the wrong thing, or being the first to sort of break the ice and sort of be open about, your mental health struggles. So I think, this is obviously especially true for marginalized identities. In some cases, in some societies, it could be actually dangerous to open up about your mental health as it relates to sort of race or gender or, sexual orientation. So I think, it's amazing the work that these organizations are doing. I think in the introduction as well, Cynthia was saying about the bethere.org, it's a brilliant resource. There's amazing organizations that we actually partner with, like the Trevor Project and Dive In Well and Peer Health Exchange. I think there's so much great work and resources coming out for these communities, which is just fantastic because, to your point, I think you're right. You have to have that sort of shared lived experience to really get the help that's going to speak to your own experience. For our part, we've launched new teachers in the app. We also have done packs on grief and injustice and privilege. And we're just, really trying to focus on how can we get access for young people to all these tools. Hence, promoting it so much on social media, because we know that's where so many people are sort of spending their time, but using it as a force for good to drive that conversation forward.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you, Maliha. Oh, you can go.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like what Maliha said, having those diverse perspectives is extremely important. And one of the reasons why I proposed my mental health bill in my state was so that it would allow excused absences for mental health in my state. And that would, if the school is saying that that's okay, then a lot of parents that aren't really open about mental health or understand their children struggling with mental health are like, oh, the school lets that happen. Like mental health is normal. It's okay to talk about this. Samantha, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think everyone here has really been touching on kind of the same major points, which is that it has to be normalized in terms of language. It has to be normalized in terms of the kinds of community it presents in. And unfortunately, like here in the States, mental health, and especially like the kinds of approaches we take with social emotional learning, are big buzzwords in more affluent and more white communities. And when we talk about the kinds of people who could benefit most from supports, although everyone can benefit from proper mental health services, the populations that are disproportionately affected by things that can impact mental health are the ones that are given least access, and also who become, as it's been stated here several times, stigmatized based on those mental health conditions. And so it's really about normalizing the conversation, dispelling bias. And we try to do that work a lot at our organization. Part of our initial onboarding when people have to use our app is actually an unconscious bias training. We work with educators in schools to help them reflect on this idea that we're giving you data on kids. It's really going to help you shift your practice and better support them. However, it's also very dangerous to know, to be given information on students' emotional, how they're feeling emotionally, right? And when we think about data and potential misuses, I think about wrongful disciplinary action, preventative actions that could disproportionately affect Black and Brown students. And so we try to embed it in the very trainings we provide, even around our tool, this idea that student mental health is top priority, but how we approach it with an equity lens really, really matters.
Thank you, Samantha. 100%. Yeah. This conversation is so great. I love hearing, like, everything everyone is saying is just so amazing. Our environments can affect our mental health, being at school, at home, or at therapy, and that provides all different experiences. What are your tips to manage our mental health in different environments?
I can go first here. I think it's tough to really do this well, and it's something that I struggle with regularly. And I did something I had not mastered in my younger adolescent and early adult years. But really knowing what it is that makes you feel safe in a space, because safety looks different in every environment. And so really understanding what that is for you, and help using that as a way to dial back any negative emotions that might come up, and really creating a protective bubble around you. So, for example, in my home, I'm a wife and I'm a mom, and in this space, it's really important for me to have independent time, or a space in my house where I can be alone. In my professional setting, I actually don't engage very often with people, and it makes me feel a lot more comfortable, and a lot more grounded and safe in my work environment when I make sure that I have 1 to 2 conversations daily with somebody that's in my organization, but that's not work related. It keeps me connected. And so those are examples of how you can really start to reframe what makes you feel safe in each.
Yeah, it's great point, Samantha. I think in the earlier Fireside chat described the sort of beautiful chaos of as when sort of the pandemic hit, and I think, as I sort of said, we did lose a lot of those support structures and some of those different environments, and we sort of have all had to readjust. And I guess it's a sort of chance to reflect as well on sort of how we might help ourselves achieve more balance in our lives, especially for young people. There's so much pressure on you all, like there's school, there's work, there's a pandemic, there's loss of sort of, social life, proms, all of that. But in the research we've done, we're so inspired by seeing how actually resilient and, this next generation seems to be. And I think it is about empowering yourself. I mean, in terms of the practice of mindfulness itself, as I sort of read this question about your environment, one exercise I love to do, and I'm a mother as well, and I do this with my 2 small ones, is if any time we're just all too much in our heads, and it's all like getting too much, we do this exercise called stop. And it's just stop, take a breath, observe, and then proceed. And I certainly don't always remember to do it. It's like a practice, but it's just something that just helps us all just try to sort of reset. And you can use your environment to help ground you. Like, what can you see? What can you hear? What can you feel? In grounding in your senses, it then allows you to calm the mind and then proceed, and hopefully proceed in a way where you feel you can, react in a more skillful way than, when you're just completely caught up in the emotions of what's going on.
Maliha, do you have anything to add?
I think Samantha and Alice put it really, really well. And I kind of want to build off what Alice said, that, yeah, you need to take a step back and just observe. And just for a second, I know it can feel like things may not get better in just that moment, but trust me, they will. And I saw this video on TikTok, and it was by a psychiatrist, and she creates this content around mental health, and focused on Generation Z, actually. So she said that, in those low moments, just remember that everything seems dark because your brain is kind of wearing like sunglasses. So it's just, a screen in front of you. It's not permanent. It's not like the reality. So just wait for those sunglasses to be lifted, and then everything will be, like you'll see everything how it is. And sometimes, I'm not saying that things are not bad. Some situations are just how they are, and we need to like learn how to deal with them. But in those moments where we feel like, okay, we don't have a lot of control, it's just a matter of like taking a step back and telling yourself that it will be okay. And yeah.
Thank you. We have an audience question, and it is, I want to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. I want to do my part, especially for this crisis. How should I start?
I can start for this one. For me, whenever it's like when I'm thinking about, so a lot of my work focuses on social justice. So it's not just about mental health, but social justice, because I feel like everything is like connected. And as I said earlier, that earlier in the conversation, that intersectionality is very important whenever we're dealing with, any issue basically in our society. So I feel like one of the best things you can do to start is to social media first, right? A lot of people think that don't have a certain following, so nobody would really like listen to us. We just have like, a few hundred people on our platform, or like just a few people on our platform. So like they think that that's not powerful enough, but we actually need to keep in mind that social media is a very, very strong tool. And there have been so many examples, so many successful campaigns that were started by people who aren't traditional influencers, but prove to be great activists for their communities. So I want to say that if you want to start and you don't see a clear start, taking the social media, put it up on Instagram, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to somebody in the community. And I think that's a great first step. And I'm sure Alice and Samantha, they would have amazing tips. But for myself, it's just social media would be the first step.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about like the other stuff that we can do too. And I think that I think sometimes when we think about like how do we dispel stigma, right? It can feel like a very overwhelming thing to tackle, and if it's like where do you fit in, and how almost like how dare you feel like so audacious that you can dispel this entire system that's been built up. But it's actually really simple, and it starts with just making the people in your immediate circle feel safer and more connected. And so the easiest way to start is just by start asking people around you how they're doing, and then truly listen in an empathetic way. Like, don't do the, hey, how are you today? Oh, I'm good, fine. Like, push people, ask the people around you, like, actually, how are you? And give them the space to know that they actually can call on you for help and support. Because when we start to have more vulnerable conversations with the people closest to us, they start to open up better, and then they start to actually mimic that behavior in their circles. And then you're creating an entire ecosystem of people who are more empathetic, more understanding, and it becomes normalized to talk about it. So sometimes it could be overwhelming. You don't have to start an organization. You don't have to run a KlickEngage or a Headspace. Like, all you really have to do is ask the people around you how they're doing and check in regularly.
Couldn't agree more. I think it starts with all of us, and it's baby steps, and it's just kind of a little bit here, a little bit there, anything and everything that you can do, both for yourself to take time to be kind to your mind and how you show up, but also to Samantha's point, sort of how you support each other. I'm going to do a quick plug. On May 20th, as part of May Mental Health Awareness Month, where there's actually a Mental Health Action Day. And we're going to do a live meditation with one of our amazing teachers, Kasonga, on TikTok. We'd love you all to join. But really, there's a lot of activity happening around taking action for your mental health on that day. So if you're wondering where to start, you think about starting there.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for engaging in this really important conversation. And thank you to the audience for being a part of talking about mental health and wellness, because it's really important and we have to continue having these conversations. I will pass it over to Isa now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelina, Samantha, Maliha, and Alice. All so incredible. You're all doing such amazing work for our community and for the world in terms of mental health. And I just wanted to make sure as we wrap up that we answer a couple of questions in the chat. And, just to build off the last question our panelists were talking about is, where do you start when it comes to decreasing mental health stigma? And really, it is as easy as just talking to one person about it. I know as a person with anxiety and depression, the smaller the step, the easier it is to accomplish. So if you can break things down into itty bitty steps and make it easier for yourself, it also makes it easier for others. So just check in with your friends, check in with your family, and talk about what's actually going on with you. Be as candid as you can. And another question that we got was actually about how movement affects your mind and body connection. And I was really excited to see that question because, as I mentioned earlier, Girl Up, we are in the middle of our Global Fitness Challenge this month. And the Global Fitness Challenge is not just focused on physical fitness. It really is focused on your overall health, your physical health, your mental health. So making sure that you are taking care of all the different pieces of you that affect your mental health. And so that is your movement, your mindfulness, what you're putting into your body, not just food-wise, but also what are you listening to? What are you looking at? What are you reading? So please make sure to join us for our Global Fitness Challenge events every Friday. On May 14th are our mental health and wellness specific events. We're having a breath work and a mindfulness and movement activity. So we hope that you're able to join us. Please check out the Born This Way Foundation pledge, as well as all of our amazing panelists' resources, the Story of Mental Health, Headspace, and KlickEngage. Thank you all again for joining us today and for taking the first step. You already did take the first step into decreasing the stigma around mental health conversations. We're so grateful to have you all join us. Please reach out to Girl Up if you need anything, and have a wonderful rest of your day.